welcome into the first episode of Coach's Banter. We're going to be talking about all things Ardmore athletics, and then we will eventually wander into some other topics. But let's introduce everybody that's here tonight. Uh, Coach O'Donnell. We'll talk about him in a second. But Coach Waddell, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Ready to roll.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. What is the definition of banter?
Just folks talking back and forth is kind of how I would define it.
Just a little jabs here and there. We're gonna have fun on the show, um, and we hope you enjoy. We're going to talk about a variety of topics tonight, but before we do that, our third person that is not here would be the Coach OD, Coach O'Donnell. He was not able to be with us tonight, but as you see on the screen, I have a old school A with a war eagle flying through, Coach, because I am an Auburn fan. And Coach Waddell, if you don't recognize that logo, that is the Vanderbilt logo. And Coach Waddell is a Vandy fan. He's the only one I know, probably the only one in this state. Coach Waddell, you think that's accurate?
I don't believe that's accurate, but there's put some respect on the logo of the two-time college baseball national champs.
Hey, it is baseball season, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Vandy boys. Um, So this idea came about because we want to talk about Ardmore sports. But there's only so much we could say, but about Ardmore sports. So we're also going to venture into other topics down the road, but we'll talk about that towards the end. Let's go ahead and get started talking about the Ardmore Tigers and what's been going on. I'll give us a short recap. In the fall, football really didn't have the season we wanted. Went 1-9. Volleyball quite didn't have the season they wanted, and they didn't make it out of the area tournament. Um, Track had some people go to state. I know they had a couple finish high. I don't remember who all they are. And then track goes into track lasts all year. Tell us what sports, which one's which, Coach Waddle. You've done track before.
Well, not to be confused with track and field, but in the fall you have cross country.
Okay, that's what I was talking
Winter,
about. There we go.
winter you have indoor track, and then in the spring you have outdoor track, and so the running lasts all year.
Yes, and that is led by the one and only Coach Morrow, who does a fantastic job. Winter outdoor track. I think again we had some people go to state or not outdoor indoor track. We had some people go to state and place. Not sure who all they were. I'll get some names and we'll give them the recognition they deserve. Cheerleading went to the state and then they went to nationals. I actually haven't heard how they did at nationals, but the fact that they got to go is very impressive. And then our basketball teams, our boys, which were young, and I'll let Coach O'Donnell talk about that more when he gets on here eventually. Um, they didn't really have the year they quite wanted, but they knew it was going to be a learning, growing year, and they did that. They were much better at the beginning than at the end. Wouldn't you say, Coach? They were much better at the end than the beginning.
Yeah, I thought they grew a lot through the year. The couple times I was, able to watch them and be on the broadcast some with y'all and be at some of the other games. I thought throughout the year they competed really hard. Uh, I think a lot of young guys got some big time experience this year that's going to pay dividends down the road when you talk about, an Alex King, a Lucas Green, and just Josiah Bird. And I could list, several others, but, I thought overall, it was a good building year. And I think a lot of the fruits of this year will pay dividends down the road.
Yeah, there was a lot of times there was 4 freshmen on the court at one time, which is crazy.
And you
Uh,
take your lumps a lot of times with that, initially, but in the long run, it pays off.
yeah, which we have a really, really good freshman class here at Ardmore boys, and they're good in every sport. It ain't just basketball. It's they're going to be really good, and a lot of. I know as a football coach, we're expecting a lot of them out of football. A lot of those freshmen going to be sophomores are going to be starting for us this year and playing huge roles. Um, and Alex King was already thrown into that last year. So, um, but yeah, coach, I thought they got much better as the year went on. They played hard all the time. Isaiah Randolph was the only senior. They lose one guy. I think there's two juniors, maybe one. Um, I don't know his roster in depth, but he's got a lot coming back. A lot of his scoring was underclassmen. Um, so I think they have a lot to look forward to. It's not easy. I've been there. It's not easy to get your tail kicked every day and coach. It's not. And the fact that our kids didn't quit, man. And I told you before you came to Ardmore, the kids here don't quit. They'll fight. They'll get after your tail. They ain't no quitting these kids. And they showed that not only for us in football, but then they showed it in basketball.
Agree 100%.
Yep. Um, and that's going to make our kids successful in life. I mean, it is what it is. So, um, our girls, on the other hand, led by the one and only Jared Kirkpatrick, aka the son of Mr. Bryant, um, favorite son that is, um, had a
I'm
really
a
really good season.
sons.
um, they were somewhere in the range of 18-12 was the record, maybe 18-13, 19-13, somewhere in there. Um, and they had one of the better seasons I think they've had in a long time here at Ardmore. And if you weren't, were you in the gym at the area or the sub regional?
I
Yeah,
was
you
there
were
for
at
the
the sub
sub
regional.
regional.
Yeah, man, what about that environment, Coach?
It was a great environment. I mean, we have a really nice big gym, and when that place gets packed out with Ardmore fans, it's a hostile place to play in.
And in the area tournament, I know you weren't there because I think you had a soccer game practice or something. And we'll talk about that in a little while. But that environment, in my opinion, fueled our girls to beat East Limestone by 30. Not 10 or 20, but 30, coach. A running clock. And, if we can do it for an area championship, we can do it all the time because kids are going to play harder and most of the time better when somebody is screaming at the top of the lungs and the gym's full, wouldn't you say?
100%. It's football is probably worth a touchdown, and basketball it's probably worth 5 to 8 points. As well, and all
Yeah.
your other sports. It's worth a lot because you have familiarity of your surroundings. You know the court. You know the surface. Whatever. You're familiar with it, but B, you got a lot, especially when it's a hostile environment in your favor. When you're an opponent going into that, it can feel like, well, I'm taking on them, and plus I'm taking on the crowd, and
Yeah.
so it's a huge advantage when you can have a big crowd in your favor there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was that night. And then it wasn't the regional, finals. We just couldn't make a shot when we needed to, we were down quite a bit at halftime and then, came back in the second half, just didn't quite have enough gas left. But if you want to know how big of a home court advantage is, if you watch college basketball, watch Auburn play at home and then on the road. Or, for matter of fact, watch anybody play. The top teams in the country in college basketball are getting upset on the road left and right, coach.
And a lot of
Uh,
times it doesn't, it's even at places that might not be sold out when a top team comes in there, especially in basketball because you're familiar with the backdrop. If you're a shooter, it's, I think basketball, it's a bigger deal maybe than it is in some other sports, to be honest.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and so our girls got beat in the sub regionals. If they would have won that, they would have went to Wallace State. They got beat by Ramsey. Um, and then Ramsey, I think, got beat by Pleasant Grove at Wallace State. But it was the furthest our girls have won in Ardmore in a long time. There was a couple seniors on that team. Lexi Mooney will be leaving, and Lexi Bedingfield will be leaving. And but the rest of them are back. The future's bright for our girls basketball team. We talked about how athletic and how good our freshman class of boys are. Well, we've got a really good freshman girls class also in all the sports. And then Lexi Gray had a really good year as a sophomore. AG's kind of a leader there, a junior. And then Presley had a fantastic year. She's a junior. So, they're going to have two seniors next year, um, along with Liz Luter. So they've got some youth coming back. Uh,
You
so,
take you take a team that's makes it to sub regionals, wins the area tournament, returns a ton of production off that roster, and then you add in JV players. This year coming up and joining that roster that's fresh off a county championship. 2 years in a row, I believe. With Coach Bryant Wells. I mean, it could set up for a really, really special season next year for the
yeah.
Ardmore varsity girls.
Yeah, two things about that. Number one is winning is contagious. And once you get a taste of it, you understand what it takes to get there and you're willing to do it, even more so than you were. And I think they got a taste of it. Those JV girls have got a taste of it because they've won at every grade level. And that brings that competitive fire out in you. I just won't lose. I ain't losing. It ain't gonna happen. And that's what you got to have. And so the girls this year, Lexi and Lexi, really helped set that standard for Coach K going forward. Because this year, whatever success comes after them, they had a huge success going forward. And I'll use an example. A couple of years ago in softball, we had one senior, and we didn't get our end goal. We didn't get to go to the championship, whatever. And it was Bo. And I told Bo, I said, hey, the standard that you set here going forward, you take pride in whatever happens after because the way you did things and the standard that you set. And then, last year we finished second. So, uh, building and you're not always going to get what you want, but it's about building. And I think Coach K's proud of where they're at, and the future is most definitely bright for those girls. And then the second thing is, um, teams that have never been there generally don't win the first time there. I know in softball, 8 teams get to go to state. If a team's never been to state, they ain't winning it, coach. Because when they get there, the pressure is too much. It is too much of a new environment. Everything is too new. And the human nature, you kind of, uh, panic a little bit. And so now that they've been there, they've kind of done that. I think they'll be much more prepared for whatever happens down the road. Hey, Rawlings. Hey, babe.
I visit
Can't keep her out. Can't keep her down. I'm telling you. Um,
Rollins says he's ready to go since Coach O couldn't make the broadcast.
hey, I'm ready here. I'm here. I ain't got no clothes on, but I'm ready. All right, coach. To the spring. There's a lot going on in Ardmore, and I know you ain't been here long, but people around Ardmore love springtime. Uh, because it's baseball and softball, and we even have. You're going to talk about soccer, um, and then we have outdoor track, and everybody wants to get outside. And historically, two of our better programs, baseball and softball, um, are in action. Now, go ahead and talk about those. Baseball is led by Coach Smith, and as always, our baseball team has high expectations. Um, they started their season Saturday. They went 2-1. They beat New Hope twice and lost to Athens. So they played 3 games in one day, Coach. In baseball, that's a lot because of the pitching situation. So I think they had a really good day. Um, but Coach Smith said something very, very significant to me the other day. Was something that Coach Ball always said was, um, "It's not a sprint. We got to get them to the finish line." And he knows the end goal. And let's just be honest, the end goal for baseball and softball every year in the spring is a blue map, and it don't always happen, and it's tough and it's hard. But that is the end goal. Um, and I think the baseball team has the talent to do that. We're going to talk more about the players on the next episode and kind of update you on how they're doing. But just as far as the expectations, Coach, I know that Coach Smith is ripping and ready to go and see what happens. Um, Coach, what would you say a lot of those kids that play multiple sports, what sport have they been looking forward to? Our boys.
It's been a lot of talk about baseball
Yes,
around
sir.
ALR.
Yes. Um, Baseball is the sport for our boys because um, anytime you got a chance to compete for a blue map, it makes it a little more special. Um,
Especially off the
so
run last year.
yeah, you weren't here yet? The environment against Sardis at home. Oh my gosh, get some. And Sardis went to the finals, Coach, and we had them beat. We had them on their ropes, baby. Um, and so they know what they're motivated. I can tell you that. So excited to see what happens. And if you can get out and go watch them this week, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous outside um, when they play.
Hallelujah.
Praise the Lord. Cold is gone. Softball. I don't know anything about softball. Don't know what they've done in the past or nothing. Um, Softball team. We lost a little bit last year. We had 5 seniors, um, but we return a lot. Um, Last year we finished second. We were in the championship game and had to get beat 2 out of 3, and we did get beat 2 out of 3. Um, the team that beat us had 2 sisters that are now playing at Memphis, and one started against LSU. She's their ace in the circle. And so it is what it is. That was a tough one to swallow for our girls, but they know the standard and they know the expectation, and they're expecting to get back there and do it all again. Um, and we lost some good players, some really good players, but we've got some really good players coming back. So I'm excited to see how they do. They started their season yesterday, Saturday. Also, they went 2-1. They beat Madison Academy 7-2. Lost to Coleman 7-6, and then beat East Lawrence. East Lawrence pretty bad. So I'm excited. They're young. Got a lot of underclassmen in the starting lineup. Brand new coach, Coach Hamner. I think that y'all got to see the interview out there in the Facebook and YouTube world last week that Greg did with her. She's from Tuscaloosa. Glad to have her. She's really good for these girls, Coach. She brings a lot of energy that I know is different for them because if you've met myself and Coach Ball, we're not cheerleaders. Um, so it's probably really good for them to have somebody out there speaking a positive voice because you know me and you know I can be pretty negative sometimes. So um, I know that's kind of refreshing for our girls. Helping her is the one and only Coach Timmy J. Uh,
Timmy
he is
J.
Ardmore. He is Ardmore, Coach. He is Ardmore. Um, I know softball's excited. They play at home on Tuesday versus Decatur, and then they play at home on Thursday against Westminster, and then they go to Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa next weekend. Um, in their region is East Russellville and East Limestone. So it's a 3-team region. Top 2 out of the area tournament get to go on to
Oh, you
regionals.
forgot one, didn't you?
No, there's
Molt.
only 3 teams. Moulton, what I say? Moulton and Russell, Lawrence County.
You said Russellville, East Limestone.
No, East Limestone is not in there. My bad. Messed that up. Screwed that up. Um, so Moulton's gonna be pretty good, and Russell I don't really. So baseball's region is different. I think they got like East Limestone, Madison Academy, and maybe Brewer or somebody. I don't know.
Is
Um,
that a byproduct of competitive balance with MA?
that is. That
Really
is.
getting
Yeah.
into, I know reclass is down on the things to talk about today.
Yep. Yep. Um, so theirs is a little bit different. Anyhow, moving on. Soccer. Coach, I know somebody in here loves soccer. Oh, soccer. Coach, tell us about soccer.
Well, we've got the start our season actually last Friday. Our first team to play was our JV girls, and went over to Elkmont, got a 2-0 win for them, or 2-0 win in proper soccer terms, which
Playing
is really
back
big.
blackjack.
Did what?
That's blackjack term. Neil.
Neil. I don't know anything about that. Uh,
No.
but 2-0 win for the JV girls, which thought was a big deal for them because a lot of those girls that are on our JV team this year are new to soccer, or they haven't played it, in a couple years since, probably when they were, kind of in elementary school, to be honest. So, when a lot of kids play, youth soccer at that age, but thought it was a big win for them. To start out 1-0 with a lot of new faces to the soccer program there. Varsity soccer, in a way, is kind of like baseball and softball. We don't play 3 games in one day, but usually most weeks we're going to have 2 to 3 games minimum a week. We played 3. Varsity girls played 3 games last week. Beat Tanner at home 6-2, which is always nice to get a win over a county rival. Went to, that was on Tuesday. Thursday went to Lee Huntsville and beat the 6A Lee Generals 2-0 over at their place, which again, always tough to go on the road and get a win, especially over a team from higher classification. So that's always good. And took one on the chin Friday at Elkmont. Took a 4-0 loss there, but Elkmont does a really good job. Jacob Seifert, I think, is one of the best, honestly, one of the best coaches in our area, to be honest. Overall, he has a lot of experience, and thought they did a good job. And but kind of like what you said, it's kind of it's a marathon, not a sprint for
Absolutely.
us. And with us just getting to play some games finally uh, was a big deal, and get to see a lot of things that we need to work on moving forward and getting ready for area play, not this week but next week.
Yeah,
Um,
and you've kind of been a walking wounded, hadn't you? A little bit.
we're a little beat up. It's not an excuse, but we're a little beat up right now. Again, the league game was very physical, but so we're mending a little bit, but and it was also our first week to play 3 games, in a week, which we didn't do a whole lot last year. We are doing that this year because honestly, that's what most really good teams around here do. They schedule a lot of games, they play a lot of games. You get better by playing, so it's
Yep.
something we need to do, and you know. Uh, that's a big part of growing the program for us. Same thing with the boys. I know the boys didn't start on Tuesday, but they played 2 games back to back as well this week. Played Lee on a Thursday, got a 5-4 win in a shootout over there. That was high scoring, to say the least, and took a loss Friday. I hate to even call it a loss because the game was suspended in the second half due to lightning and field conditions, due to the storms and rain moving through that hit towards the end of our game and carried over into the boys' game. But the score line was 2-1 at that point when the game was officially called.
Hmm.
But but they'll get another chance to kind of chalk up a win against Elkmont. Hopefully on Tuesday, as Elkmont's boys come over here in the return trip, and we'll
Do
be
y'all play
playing.
them too?
We do not. So this was actually the second Elkmont game. Was kind of a late addition. We were supposed to play Mars Hill. Both teams were supposed to play Mars Hill at home on Tuesday. Both Mars Hill's girls and boys basketball won their first round game at Wallace. They played Tuesday. So these were actually late fill-in games, and Coach because Tidwell over at Elkmont was he had open day for the boys, and so they're going to come over at 5 p.m. And we had a late edition of the Scottsboro girls that will come down Highway 72 and play us at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, which is
Man,
kind of
it's gonna be pretty though.
it will be. It's not going to be cold,
Yeah.
and should be two good games, be good competition for both of us. Elkmont has a pretty good tradition in boys soccer, and Scottsboro has pretty good tradition in girls soccer. So it'll be good competition for us, and help us get better as we both venture towards area play, which will be starting up not this upcoming Monday, but next Monday at home against West Point.
Yeah. Uh, come out Tuesday. There's a lot going on Tuesday in the Ardmore's sports world. Come watch some soccer, softball. I'm sure baseball's at home because they got a home game every day. It may not be the varsity, but it'll be somebody. Um, but come out on Tuesday and see everybody do what they do. Um, Coach
I
Waddell,
do
who's
want
in your region? Talk about your region because soccer's messed up. It's like 27 teams in a region and like 1.5 teams make it or something.
it's tough. You make the soccer playoffs, you've done something. That's an accomplishment in itself because we're in a region with Russellville, East Limestone. East
Hey, East
Limestone
Limestone's good at soccer.
2 years ago, they're the state runner up. They're still really good this year. Russellville has a really good tradition in soccer. West Point's a solid program, boys and girls as well, traditionally. Lawrence County's in our region, and both of those teams from Lawrence County have really grown over the past couple of years. Also, we have AP Brewer. We'll play them
Burr.
as well. I'm trying to think if I missed anybody because it's pretty much our football region minus Fairview from last year, and the top two teams make it. So, it's if you come through that gauntlet and end up in the top two, you've done something. And I hope in the future, and I don't know if it'll happen, this time around. I hope, I think it would be good for the sport, and if the state wants to make more money, it'd be good for that as well.
They want to
Maybe
make money, no doubt.
maybe expanding it to the top four, or if we're going to do top two, let's do more, 4-team regions
Yeah.
like we do in basketball,
Yeah.
because then you have a lot more teams that have a realistic shot. Because honestly, like you could have a really good year and be left out if your region is really tough, and like our region's
Yeah.
really tough, top to
Yeah.
bottom. I mean, we I know East Limestone's kind of been the cream of the crop, and Russell's kind of been traditionally number two, but there's a lot of
And that's
teams
in girls. In
and
boys,
girls.
Russellville's legit. That's girls. But
Russell,
in boys,
I mean, you talk about
it's
the boys, Russell's won a state title, recently. East Limestone traditionally, I know they were kind of down the last 2 years, but traditionally that's been a soccer power in North Alabama. Brewer had a really good year last year. Lawrence County had a really good year last year. I mean, so, West Point's traditionally very solid as well. So, you take a region like that and both the boys and the girls and the top two make it, there's going to be two really good teams that get left out at minimum.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you even venture down into, I was looking at the region that Elkmont's in 1 through 3A. Some of the teams in that thing, you got them, Madison Academy, Clements, who's ranked, Whitesburg Christian. That's four pretty good teams in that region. Only two of them are going to go.
All right, question. Stop right there. Should private schools be allowed to compete in the same as public schools?
Put me on the spot on that one. I probably need to hold my tongue. I'm just going to leave it there. I
Uh,
mean, state has done a better job. I mean, the multiplier is better than a lot of
it is.
associations.
Yeah.
Tennessee, from being up there in football, Tennessee has the full public-private split. And I think it's good for, it's been good in Tennessee in some aspects because, you take some of your very large private schools up there that actually, you know, have a lot of, won a whole lot when they were in public school leagues. They've really thrived. But, your smaller private schools, uh, have really struggled up there as well. And I
Yeah,
know there's, not to get too much into saying more than I need to say, but, I think there's people at both the public and private school levels that try to do things the right way. And I think you could definitely argue maybe that's not the case across the board at both the
yeah.
public and private.
Well, if our Senate and House, if our Alabama congressman pass the new um, bill that people get tax credits for and they can send their kid to a private school. They get what 6,800 or whatever per year. I think more kids will go to private school. So that's something else our state's going to have to deal with. Is public school numbers going down because of a state law that our legislator put in? If it passes, it hasn't. But I'm just saying.
I
So
think we could do a whole episode on that and
yeah,
I'll be able to fill an hour.
yeah, no doubt. Um, So, Coach Waddell, I don't know if they've been able to catch on, but you really, really, really love soccer. And some of our coaches' chats on side dishes, we call him the Russian soccer Caesar because he wears this hat when it's cold outside because it's cold half soccer season. Um,
I've retired. I've retired the hat.
uh, anyways, it was cold Saturday when baseball and softball played. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I've upgraded in the cold apparel. So
yeah. Our track programs also are getting started. I know Coach Morrow, they got something every weekend, it seems. Um, and the track program is huge. I know we got a ton of football kids, and I know as football coaches, we love when our kids go do track because it keeps them in shape, keeps them running, teaches them speed and power and agility on different stuff they do. And I know we've got quite a few football kids out there with Miss Morrow. Um, so I know we're excited about all them. And she'll have people at state just like she always does compete. So we've even got a few kids. I think Noah and Skylar that run track and then go play baseball, which is pretty impressive. Um,
we
so
we got TC Combs on one of our soccer seniors on the boys team. He competes, plays as
see on that
well.
4x1 team with Noah and Skylar.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, yeah. Also going on, we got golf led by the one and only Coach Zerbal and Coach South. But a big shout out. I no way he watches this episode. But we have a professional golfer here from Ardmore. Did you know that, Coach?
I do know that.
What's his name, Coach? Putting you on the
Lee
spot again.
Lee Hodges, man. How you
Lee
not know?
Hodges. He is a millionaire. He got more money than us combined. But
He's got the
he is.
best. He's part of the best football intro in the state now. Pre-game.
He is. Ain't no doubt. Hey, he owns it, baby. That's what I'm talking about right there. Hey, but because he owns it, and because he has never forgotten where he's from, I know that our soccer, or not our soccer, moved on from soccer, our golf program um, got a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff that they didn't have to pay for because he was willing to help out and to give back, Coach. I'll never be rich, I'm sure, um, but if I ever was, Coach, I like to think that I would give back. But there's a lot of people that get rich and don't give back. They forget where they came from. And Lee didn't do that. I mean, he said after he had the biggest moment of his life, I'm from Ardmore. I own that. And that's pretty special, man. But anyways, I was talking about golf. Now I'm talking about Lee Hodges. Um, golf season started, and I know that Coach South kind of does the girls, and Coach Zerbal kind of does the boys. I think that's how it works. And I know the way golf works, Coach, you can let like 5 people play, and you count 4 scores for boys. And when girls play, you let 4 play and count 3 scores. And I know that we've got a few years ago we didn't have very many people that play very good. But I think this year we've got some boys and some girls um, that can play a little bit. One of them's our very own football boy, Hayden Durham. He's turned into a pretty good little golfer. Um, he thinks he can beat me, but he cannot beat me in golf. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Hayden, anytime, anywhere, buddy. Um, but anyways,
I want to
I
see
don't,
a live stream of this for when he does beat you, because you're not going to react
coach.
well.
If he starts beating, I'm gonna be like Tiger. I'm gonna have to pull out. 5 holes in, can't win. I'm done, baby. Uh, so, anyways, so it's springtime in Ardmore, and Mr. Bryant sends out a Monday memo. I don't know if you actually read that Monday memo, Coach, but I do.
I, li- I listened to
I
the
don't listen.
announcements today,
I don't
and
listen to his voicemail. Yeah, I just read
it
it
was a
on.
long announcement today with all everything going on this
Yeah,
week.
exactly. Because there is 3 events going on every day. Um, and if you're out there listening, you care about Ardmore sports. So come watch these kids, man. They work their tails off. I promise you, they work their tails off. We don't always get the results we want because there's only one team that can win it all every year in every sport. But that don't define us. So that don't define these kids. They want people here and they want people supporting them. So come out and do that. It's going to be a beautiful week. Come out and support these kids. Um, Coach, we're glad to have coaches like you and Coach Smith and Coach Hamner and Coach Morrow and Coach Serble. I'm telling you, man, Ardmore's got good people, good coaches leading your kids. Um, so uh, we appreciate it. I'm not coaching very much anymore, so I can say that. Moving on. The next topic is AHAA reclassifications. So the reclassifications came out, I don't know, what, December the 12th ish, something like that, Coach.
That seems about
And,
right.
and here's what we got. Let's start with volleyball. Our region for volleyball is Burr, Ardmore, East Limestone, Priceville, which joins us in probably every region we'll have, baseball and softball, probably, um, and Westminster Christian Academy. Westminster is only 5A in volleyball. That is the only sport they are 5A in.
There's your
Um,
competitive balance back again.
Competitive balance. And I like competitive balance. I think it's fair. Hey, it don't even matter to Bayside volleyball, coach. They going to win 7A eventually.
You
Insane.
are correct on that. Give them
They didn't win
time.
it. They didn't win it this year, though, right? I don't think.
No, they did not.
It ended. Their like 18-year win streak ended or something.
I think Mountain Brook beat them.
Yeah, crazy. They won a ton in a row. So that is our volleyball region. So that's 5 teams. Flip over to Area 15, and it's 3: Lawrence County, Russellville, and Westport. And you're wondering why the state does that. Well, we don't know. So I wish I had an answer for you, but
Is
I
that
don't
how
know.
all of us? Is that how all of us felt on the day that they released everything, and we're sitting watching the TV show for an
Well, we'll
hour
get
and
to
a
that
half?
one, Coach. Hold up, hold up. Oh yeah, don't. Well, we'll get there. Um, so
We were all wondering
anyway,
why.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. Uh, why didn't Priceville go with the other group to make it for? I don't know. It doesn't matter. What we tell our, I know what generally we tell our athletes here at Ardmore, um, is you got to beat them anyways. What does it matter?
We'll see them at some
uh,
point.
yeah, just beat them early, get them out of the way. So that's our volleyball region. We will have a new volleyball coach. We don't know who that is. Admin don't know who that is, um, but we will be having a new volleyball coach. Uh, it's not going to be Mr. Jarrett. um, so, anyways, all right, football region coach, because all that got released was track, football, cross country. Excuse me, it's not track. My bad. Uh, cross country. Cross country area is it's big because it's different how cross country works, coach. Right? Cross country sections is what they are called. Uh, is Brewer, Arab, Ardmore, Boaz, Douglas, East Limestone, Fairview, Gunnersville, Lawrence County, Priceville, Russellville, Scottsboro, and West Point, because there's only 4 in the entire state. So you go to sectionals and compete to go to state. Is how it works, correct?
I believe so. I haven't
I think so.
I haven't forayed into cross country too much,
Oh,
to be
my bad.
honest.
I don't know. If you look at me, you can tell I didn't run track. All right, football region, coach. The Ardmore Tigers, the East Limestone Indians, the Fairview. Fairview was not originally in there. We're going to talk about that. Lawrence County, Priceville, Russellville, and West Point. That is a 7-team region. The one team that was in our region at one point, when it got released, was Brewer. Or shall I say Burr. But Brewer got moved out, coach,
And the Brooks
because
Lions were in it for a
it
second.
don't even make sense at all why they. Anyways, here's what happened. Our region when it got released was Ardmore, East Limestone, Lawrence County, Priceville, Russellville, West Point, Brooks, and Brewer. It was 8 teams. Brooks called the state and said, "Hey, you got our numbers wrong, guys. We're supposed to be 4A." Well, they had an appeal process that they went through, and Brooks was correct. They were 4A. There were some numbers that were off somewhere. Um, and so Brooks got to go back to 4A. Um, and when they did that, they took Brewer out and moved Fairview in, which didn't make sense to any of us, but was like, whatever. Um, I do know that Coach Schneider was going to the meeting to draw area team, like who you were going to play, when, whatever. And Brooks was so, because persistent. They weren't going to be in 5A. They said, we ain't in 5A. So, anyways, they got to go back to 4A. Also, if you weren't tuning in, the reclassification was supposed to be released, I think, at 10 o'clock, Coach, if I'm correct. And they
I
had a
believe you.
coaching, they had a whole show for this. And every coach in Alabama is tuned in, baby. And 12:30 rolls around, Coach, and we still ain't got
They were having to
in
fill
the
that air. They were having to fill that air time like the announcers for Auburn, South Carolina had to in the second
yeah,
half.
yeah, no doubt. Uh, so there was some mishaps and mix-ups, and a lot went down that day that we can't even talk about here. That we've stuff's came out, but anyways, they finally came out, and then they had to fix quite a few things. Um, did you know 2 years ago, Madison Academy was in 4A, and they appealed it and got to 3A, and got to the championship this year. So, anyways, that is what it is. Coach, let's talk about football thought because those things. um, because we have a vested interest in that. So let's talk about our football region, Coach. Go for it.
Well, I guess the first one to talk about would be the new face in Priceville. Uh, Priceville joining the region, coming up from 4A. Uh, they'll have a new look this year with,
For
of
sure.
course, with their coach. I think Chris Foster's his name. Went to
That's right.
Brookwood, former coach.
Yep.
In comes Seth Parker from Bob Jones, who was the offensive
Yep.
coordinator there. Uh, probably I would expect a little bit of change in philosophy. Brewer was kind of known. I mean, not Brewer. Priceville was kind of known for running the Notre Dame box on the offensive side of the football and a very aggressive 3-3-5 stack defense, which are really two things that you don't see a ton of, especially the Notre Dame box or single wing,
Coach,
whatever you want to call it.
there was
Uh,
times on film they didn't have one defensive lineman down. Not one. Oh, my camera zoomed in. Hey, how about I not do that?
I mean,
Anyways,
they did some very unique stuff that you don't. see every day.
Yeah,
I know,
for sure.
definitely dealing with them on offense. Try when you're on the defensive side, trying to defend an offense like the Notre Dame box that you see one time a year. It's like what a lot of teams at the college level talk about when you play Army, Navy, or Air Force, and
Yeah.
they run the flex bone. Trying to defend triple option. And so,
Do you remember when Nick Saban, just a shout out to Nick Saban. I'm an Auburn fan. Coach Waddell's a Vandy fan. And I don't like Alabama, let's just be honest. But Nick Saban is absolutely the greatest to ever do it, coach. There will never be another Nick Saban. His ability to lead people, to motivate people, to hold people accountable, and to get what he got out of those players year in and year out is the most remarkable thing ever. I don't. I mean, because Bill Belichick, we could say is the goat too, but Bill Belichick had the greatest quarterback of all time.
he
Nick
did.
Saban had Nick Saban had a rotating door of players.
Players
Um,
and assistant coaches.
I mean, all right, Jake Coker is a really good quarterback, but Jake Coker won a national championship, coach.
Right.
But because Nick Saban had the best thing that other players win, and if I can get the best players, we're gonna win. Um, on one of the episodes of the NFL thing that they did on Nick Saban, he said he told that whoever the AD was at Alabama when they hired him, he said, "Look, you hired a horse crap of a coach." He didn't say horse crap. He said the word, but he said you've hired a horse crap of a coach, but ain't nobody gonna out recruit me and get better players. Hey, that formula worked, coach.
And that
Anyways, yeah. Shout out to Nick Saban, coach. You got anything to say about him? I'll be
uh,
honest. I'm glad he's gone.
best to ever do it at the college level. I mean, if
Ain't
you
no
look at
doubt.
the landscape of college football, you know, during his time there and how it's changed so much over his tenure, and just we was talking offense a little bit there, but you talk about how college, see how college football's kind of went away from, the old, when he was started in college football. A lot of the SEC was still, we're gonna pound the rock, pro style offense, run the ball, play good defense. To now, most teams in the SEC are fun and gun,
Yeah.
RPOs, throwing it around, spreading it out, and he was willing, even with the elite level players that he was able to bring in, it could have been really easy for him to say, I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing. It's been working. And he's willing to adjust with the times, and
Yep.
bring in OC like Lane Kiffin, who's killing it at Ole Miss now. Bringing in, having a guy like Mike Loxley there that's killing it at Maryland, and bringing in some guys to, really, kind of bring in the spread to Alabama. And then, even this past year, kind of going back, a little bit more ball control, adjusting to the personnel you had with Tommy Reese as the OC. And, but I think that's just a testament to his willingness to adapt to
Yep.
what best fit his team. Especially as recruiting's kind of changed a little bit with the transfer portal and NIL. But just if
That's a
you
topic.
there's a saying in the coaching world, adapt or die. And
Yeah.
he's one that he was never too proud to adapt, but, with the scheme, from the scheme standpoint, but his standards, though, they never adjusted. His standards were always high. And, that's what you had to reach for. And that's what you had to uphold, hold yourself to at Alabama, elite level standard. And that never wavered with him. And, he'll go down as the best to ever do it at the college level. I really,
No doubt.
truly believe that. I know some people might argue other folks, but I don't think you can really argue that he's not the greatest to ever do it at the NCAA
Mhm.
level.
And he did it in the league that was dominant. And he
Yes.
dominated this league.
And in the best
But
side of the league, the
yeah, no
West
doubt.
Division, which is
He didn't
always
get
a
to
little,
play Vandy every week.
well,
Vandy, Missouri.
We won 9 games twice in the SEC, in the SEC East in the last 2 decades. So that tells you kind of how the East is compared to the West.
Yeah, no doubt. Um, but he's the goat. But glad he's gone. Moving back to Priceville Bulldogs. Priceville is probably here in 5A to stay, Coach. They'll probably be a new rivalry for us. I mean, they're a lot like us. Decatur's growing. People are actually moving to kind of outskirts of Decatur somewhat. So Priceville's just going to keep growing. Um, and so they've been really good the last few years in 4A. I mean, really good.
Yes.
And they've scored a lot of points running that single wing. And that single wing is so effective, Coach, because they'll have three guys pull this way, and then they'll have two guys pull this way, and your linebacker's going, Coach, where I go? Uh, you know, so it's difficult. But that's gone out the gate. Um, and they're bringing in the spread. So we'll see. But it's exciting to get to play them, Coach. When I was growing up, Priceville was our arch enemy, baby. Hated number one. Uh, we had the old
Well,
saying, poop on Priceville. That was what we said growing up. So,
I still suspect that Priceville won't be going away anytime soon.
no,
I think
no.
they'll still be very good.
Yep,
They're brand new. They made a very good coaching hire in Seth Parker. I don't know him personally, but if you follow Bob Jones has put up points 7A football the last couple of years, and
yeah,
with the people moving into Priceville, the talent level for them has went up every year in all their sports.
yep,
So I doubt Priceville's going anywhere anytime soon.
yep. And, welcome to 5A because, again, I think they're here to stay. And we'll probably see them at every sport. So get used to seeing the black and gold of Priceville. Um, Also, coming, let's just go down. East is in here. We don't even need to talk about the East Coast. That's arch enemy number one. We'll just let that be what it be. Uh, Fairview. Fairview loses a lot, Coach, but they're a lot like us. They had a really good group that's kind of filtered out the past 2 years. They had a lot of kids play two ways last year. Went down there and was in the ball game, Coach. We had a chance, man. We just made some critical mistakes. Couldn't get some early touchdowns when we had all the momentum, and it kind of fell apart late. So when you look at that final score from last year, that's optical delusion. It really wasn't that bad. But anyways, they lose some team players off that team. Uh, so
So
I
still
think
a
that could be a. Go
still a
ahead.
tough, gritty group of kids coming back though.
Yeah, they're
They play.
tough now. Coach, you talked about hit you in the mouth. Oh, yeah, they finna hit you. Uh, and they're still going to be good. But they're not. Coach, 2 years ago, they went to what, the semifinals?
Yes.
I think their best
I think
year
that
in
might.
school history.
I can't remember if that was in 4A or in 5A, but still, you go.
Five. They beat Russell.
Yes, it was. You are correct. I mean, either way, you go semis.
You're
You
good.
do it
Coach,
right.
and Ramsey won it, and Ramsey barely beat them. They had Ramsey on the ropes.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they're still going to be good. Uh, in the region, again, is Lawrence County Red Devils. And they lost some linemen, but they returned a lot of skill guys. They were huge up front. The biggest team we played up front. You agree, Coach?
I agree. And you talk about a program that's made a big jump over the last 3 years,
Yeah.
and that would be Lawrence County because I
They
know
were 0 and 10, Coach.
my last year at Hazel Green, we played them week 2, and it was a game that we won by a pretty hefty margin. But he played a lot that year. He played a lot of young guys that year. It's kind of going back to the basketball thing we were talking about. With our boys, they took their lumps. Kind of the past 2 years
Yep.
leading into this year, playing a lot of young guys in 5A football, freshmen and sophomores, and then this year kind of had their breakthrough, because
Yep.
they built a really good foundation and committed to playing those young kids that I'm sure were doing the right things that Coach Walker wanted them to do there, and
Yep.
building that culture the right way, and it paid dividends this year for them.
And they had really built up the game against us because their goal was to get in the playoffs, and they knew they had to beat us this year. And they were fired up, Coach. When we got down there, I said these boys are ready.
Yeah,
And they went on to Smallywalk us. Um, they were ready and they were fired up, and it really defined their year. They had a really good year, um, and
they had
they're
a
going to be
def- they had a definite identity of. I mean, it
no
was not
doubt.
even just against us, but he watched them on film against Russellville. I think the week before, and they're lining up running the ball down Russell's throat,
Yeah,
over and over and over and moving the ball, and just kind of had some misfortune in that game,
yeah,
or that game could have even went their way. I mean, you
yep,
you could see the definite, even before we play them, the definite improvement that they had made, and just the
yep,
mindset that those kids have there.
yep. Another team coach has a new head coach. Um, is West Point. West Point um, is similar to us, except their quarterback's not a freshman. He's a really good senior coach. I mean, probably the best quarterback we'll see all year. He's for real. He's the dude. He was hurt last year against us. He played very sparingly, and then weren't able to do what he normally does. Add that on top of they just hired a guy that is really good at throwing the ball over the yard. I could very well see West Point throwing it 40 times a game. What about you, Coach?
I mean, on top of knowing Coach McCravy's background, you got a quarterback like that. My
He's good.
goodness, you can
He is
throw it
good.
40 times a game if you want to.
He's got a
He
little
can do
Johnny
it too.
Manziel too.
He to be as big of a kid as he is height wise. I mean, he moves. He is quick. He is
Yeah.
deceptively fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, your new coach going in there, that's definitely a big piece to build around.
No doubt. No doubt. They're going to be good. I think they could be a surprise contender. I really do. They're going to be. I mean, look, Coach, we play a sport that a good quarterback can dominate a game, and
Yeah.
he is the best, one of the best around. So that's a tough gig for us. Anyways, um, the other team in the area has another head coach. So we have three teams in our area with new head coach. The other team with a new head coach is not named a head coach, and that would be the Russell Golden Tigers. And coach, I'm glad they got a new head coach because the last one they had was pretty darn good. Um,
John,
and Coach
John, oh, go ahead,
John
coach.
John Ritter's taking the job at Decatur High School, and he's going to lead them. He's left Russell, and it would hurt my feelings, Coach, if the running back wasn't there anymore. Because not only do we have to play one of the best quarterbacks in this area, the guy from Russellville, Coach, may be an SEC running back by the time it's done. He's
He may
legit.
be, he may very well. He'll be a junior this year. Be the best running back in the state,
Yes, no doubt, Coach.
high school
He may
level.
he may win Mr. Football if he's still at Russell.
He that's the thing with them. You could have you could be in the perfect spot, and he's gonna make something happen sometimes, and you could have it. You could have everything bottled up just like you think you should on paper, and he pops a big run still because he's a dude, and
He is.
Coach Ritter and crew did a really good job finding unique ways to get him the ball, putting him in an advantageous position from a scheme standpoint. And I know Decatur's happy to be getting that, and I'm like you. I'm not real upset that he's heading over to Decatur High, and I
Yeah.
think
No.
you'll see a big jump with them as well because he's Coach Ritter. He's won everywhere he's been. Even back to the Red Bay days, and so I am interested to see who they hire. But it's kind of like the old, until the champ is still the champ until you knock off the champ that someone's
That's right.
able to do. And, a place like Russellville, sometimes it does matter who's coaching them, but, they're still going to have some really good players, going to have really good talent. That place is all about some football there.
No
They,
doubt.
they have a lot of tradition, and, you know, it doesn't matter who the coach is. They're still going to be the champs if someone goes in there and knocks them off in our region.
Yeah. They're still going to be good. They lost a lot, but they're still going to be good. Coach, when you got the best player on the field, it's tough to beat you. And they're going to have the best player on the field almost every single night, if not every night, for sure. Um, so, but their hire has not been announced, and really ain't heard a whole lot about their hire. But I'm sure it'll be some big name, because they're Russell. They're gonna pay. They're gonna do what it takes.
They have kept that thing really quiet.
They have. They
It's
have.
how you run a good search.
Yep. And then lastly is your one and only Ardmore Tigers, um, led by the coach Snyder. Um, just our expectations, Coach. We expect to be a lot better. Um, we went through a lot of growing pains last year. We were young. We're still going to be young this year. Let's just be honest. I can speak for my position. I had 4 sophomores starting up front, and that's tough because games are won in the trenches, and we were super duper young up in the trenches. We lost a good one in Mike. I offered him a 6 year of eligibility, but he didn't take it. Um, Tried to give him his COVID year back, but he didn't take it. So, um, anyways, we look to be a lot better. We anticipate that. That's our standard. You talked about Coach Staben's standards, and that's one thing that a lot of coaches have started doing is we set the standards, and uh, kids will meet standards. And Coach Snyder and Coach King, I know in the weight room every day. Coach Holt's in there too, because their schedule at school allows it. But the kids are busting their tail in the weight room, Coach. Every time I go in there, they're slap getting after it, man, and they want it. They don't want to feel what we felt last year again. And I can tell you they're working their tail off, Ardmore people, and we're going to do everything in our power, and so are they, to not let that happen again. Because 1-9 is not acceptable. We know that, and we're working our tails to change that. But we were young. The future is bright, no doubt. But it just, as you said with Lawrence County, man, sometimes you got to take them right here. And just as our boys basketball team did this year, it is what it is. Um, but we're going to be better. Uh, how does that translate to wins and losses? Coach, you don't know, man. These are high school kids. They may wake up tomorrow, and it's like a gamble, man. With kids, you never know. But anyways, thoughts on us and our year, Coach?
Well, I know there were some struggles last year, but kind of what we've said a couple of times on the show when talking about other sports and other teams. A lot of young guys got experience last year, in some crucial positions, from the O line to quarterback, from the D line to the secondary, linebacker. I mean, we had a lot of youth, all over the field, a lot of first time guys that, that stepped in and played a lot. This year started in several positions, and the negative of that is usually when you're playing a lot of young guys in high level high school football, which 5A football here is high level high school football within the
No
state.
doubt.
It doesn't immediately translate to success. You're usually going to have more failure starting off in that before you have success. And,
Yep.
so we went through some of the struggles last year. But I believe, I really believe that, when you have a good foundation of young players that get a lot of experience, that usually equals some success down the road.
Yep.
And, I think this year will be another step towards that. I'm like you, what does that equate to? No one really knows at this point. That's why they play the game. And we'll find out as we go. But I'm like you. I think it'll be, some definite improvements just because we're going to put a lot of kids out there that's had experience under the big time spotlight.
Yep.
And a lot of those kids as well, played in JV games on Monday nights. And, our JV record was 7-1. So they had a lot of experience, and some of that against the same teams that we'll play on our
Yeah.
schedule.
Yep.
Mass Fayetteville City and Giles County. Uh, there were two really good programs out of Tennessee that we play, being so close to state line. I think that experience is going to pay off. The
Yeah.
older that they get, the more reps they get, practice in the weight room, so on and so forth.
Yeah. They were 7-1. Had a really good JV season. Uh, the future's bright. I mean, but here's the thing, Coach. Our kids could have quit, and most kids at most places would have quit. It stinks being 1-9 in football and getting, I mean, just getting smacked because it's so physical, and to have to go to practice every day and put those pads on and go beat the crap out of each other in pads. Man, that ain't no fun sometimes when you're getting your tails kicked. And our kids never quit. You wouldn't have known they were 1-9 if I didn't tell you. Um, that tells you their character, Coach. Our kids' character is right. Uh, and that's why I have such belief in the future. Is if they care enough to have good character, we're gonna be all right. It's just you got growing pains, man. It is what it is. It's life. So, but anyways, that's football. That's down the road. That's a long time from now, Coach. Last thing for tonight. We've been on the air a long time, man. Future of the show. So we're going to try to air once a week. So I think we can handle that. Um, if Coach O'Donnell can't be here, Coach Waddell can't be here, we'll make it happen, whatever. We are going to have guests, so be prepared if you're out there. We're coming for you. Look, I'm going to go ahead and show you. Look, I'm ready for 2 guests. I'm ready for 1 guest. I'm ready for no guest, okay? We're ready for everybody. So we're going to get other coaches on the show. We're going to get admin on the show. Uh, we hope to grow the show. Now, every show we're going to talk a little bit about Ardmore. Okay, we're going to kind of recap the sports week and talk about players individually. We didn't do a lot of that tonight, Coach, but we will do that going forward. Um, so stay with us for that. We're also going to talk about things going around us. We're also going to dive into other sports, into other realms, college, NIL. Oh, NIL is going to be a big one. Uh, we don't really want to talk politics, but we may talk about anything, Coach. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're here. Number one to support Ardmore, and we're going to do that every week. Number two, we're just going to talk about general things, man. Uh, because here's the thing I know about Ardmore, Coach, about the people that we surround ourselves with, the coaches that we're going to have on here. We all know that we need people in our lives that we care about and they care about us. And I told Coach Waddell before he came, when I was trying to get him to come to Ardmore, is people don't leave Ardmore. They come and they stay. And there's a reason for that. And when you've got a place like that, it's special. And so we're just going to try to broadcast that to the world. Let people know these coaches. Because one thing as a coach and a former head coach, we're real people. And for you out there that's not a head coach, I'm going to tell you, being a head coach is the loneliest place because you eat a lot on your shoulders. There's a lot of things you can't say, a lot of things you can't do, but that's what a great leader does, man. They bear it for everybody. And these head coaches do that. We're going to have a lot of head coaches on here. And it's tough. It's a very, very, very lonely place. Um, and the greater you win and the more you win, the harder it is. Um, and so it's a lot on these coaches. So instead of being that person that ridicules them and hates on them and tells them how stupid and they are, man, love them. Man, they're people. We're people. We're regular old people. I got kids, as you saw. I've got kids. I've got dogs. I've got cats. I've got bills to pay just like you. And now she's crying because I won't hold her. Anyways, so we're just going to talk, man. Let you get to know us coaches, let you get to know us administrators. Um, and we hope you enjoy. We hope you enjoyed the first broadcast. We don't never know how long it's going to be. We're going to go till we get tired of talking. We appreciate you being here with us. Coach Waddell, I appreciate you, man. Coach Waddell's a good dude with a good heart, a good servant's heart. Um, and there needs to be more people in the world like him. Now, everybody can't talk as country as Coach Waddell, but we need more people that's as good hearted as Coach Waddell um, out there. Coach Waddell, any closing thoughts, man?
I think this is going to be a fun adventure. Get to talk about the good things going on in Ardmore sports and dive into some off-topic things as well outside of the realm of Ardmore Tiger Nation, and I think it's going to be a blast.
Ain't no doubt. Next time, I hope to have Coach O'Donnell. We'll have a guest next time. Don't know who it'll be. Never going to tell you. But it's going to show up and we're going to surprise you. Um, but we appreciate you joining us for the first time. If we bored you, I'm sorry. Come back next time. Maybe we won't bore you. Um, but until then, and as always, Tiger up and God bless. We'll see you next time on Coach's Banter.